everybody.
Morning,
Good
Barb.
morning.
Morning, Barb.
So here we are. It's Wednesday morning of the B&G British Columbia Campout. We've been having a fine time. We've been having amazing experiences. The sun is out today. We have blue skies and it's gorgeous.
Sunshine.
Yay! All right, so let's start with yesterday. Anybody have anything that they experienced yesterday after the meeting that they'd like to talk about? How about the branch that fell during the meeting that we checked out afterwards?
Right.
Yeah, so we discovered that it fell, a considerable distance from where the tree was shaking.
It looks like it's that. It looks like it is that branch we found that broke, and because it was dug in on, it disturbed the duff,
Yeah,
the dirt.
It made a divot.
Yeah, definitely. But it was quite a ways from where all those branches were moving up and down over there.
Yeah.
So one thought was maybe whatever was in the tree when it jumped, then it hit the other tree, broke that off, and that's what fell. That's possibly a theory. Otherwise, I don't know what other explanations there might be. Kevin, what do you think? You were down there researching it.
It was the branch that was on the ground was 10 yards from the branch that was bouncing, and I was pulling on that branch that was bouncing, and it just rebounds once.
That was it, huh?
So there was something that was creating that thing to bounce because it was waving.
Wow.
About 3 times, waving hard.
Wow, I must have just
And
missed
that,
it.
yeah, that branch on the ground, if it did come down and hit it, even if it got hung up on it, which it didn't, you could see it come down like this. You could see the branch hit the ground, but the branch that was still up there that was moving only rebounded one time when you hit it.
Wow.
So something was causing it to move
Okay.
2 more times before everything stopped.
Wow. Well, it was perfectly timed, too, considering that Sandy had just said she was looking for confirmation
Yep.
that it was them.
Sign.
Yeah.
And then it was like, bam.
All right. Well, then, seems to me after that it was probably pretty peaceful, wasn't it? Pretty quiet day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose we can just skip right ahead to last night. We had an amazing time here by the fire with you two playing off of each other, making up songs as you went, and it was so much fun. Thank you so much. All right, so then after the music stopped, midnight, you guys went to bed. I went to my tent. I stayed awake for maybe an hour, and while I was sitting in there, I did hear 2 screams about 5 minutes apart. They weren't close. They were from back in that direction back there. But yeah, they were definitely long, drawn-out howls.
Wow.
And yeah, they were really cool. Distant, though. Yeah. Distant. And then that was all I experienced for the night. That was pretty quiet. But this morning I heard there were some other experiences out here.
Barb, you just triggered me that I also heard a scream last night, but it was while these guys were still singing, but I couldn't hear them sing. I couldn't hear any drums from where I was, but I heard a scream, so I was...
Were we singing?
No, I went to bed and you guys were still singing and drumming, right? And I heard a scream. I had forgotten until you just said that you heard some screams, although yours were way later than mine because you were one of the people here drumming and singing. But did you guys did you do a big old whoop or anything?
Nope, we didn't do anything like that.
Okay, because when I heard that, I thought, I wonder if it's them. I'll have to ask them, and then forgot all about it till just now.
Okay, so what direction?
It was that way also.
Oh, okay.
Well, I thought it was that way, but it's like, gosh, I don't hear them drumming and singing, but maybe if somebody let out a big long whoop or yell.
Nope, we did not do anything
I heard
like
that. Okay.
No.
So he has something to corroborate that.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely heard the screams, and it was after all the music had stopped, and it was definitely that direction and in the distance. But I heard a couple of screams that were, minutes apart, like,
Wow.
yeah, and they were far. But I have never been out here, so I couldn't they weren't familiar to me like you said they were. But I definitely heard them
Okay.
after everybody had gone to bed.
Do you want to go ahead and tell us what else happened?
Well, about Matt and I were in our tent shortly before sunrise, and we heard a scream kind of, I think, over this direction, and then we heard something back here, And then we heard something very substantial and heavy run right by our tent.
Wow.
That moved the ground, like something very heavy, something on all fours for sure. It sounded like, and Matt. I mean, the screams woke Matt up. I was up. I heard those, and I didn't know if it was coming towards the tent, but it just went back towards the cliff by the water, and then we didn't hear anything after that. But that's when I checked my phone, and it was shortly before sunrise, like a little before 6 a.m. this morning. It was still pitch black.
Pretty cool.
Awesome.
How can you tell it was on all fours?
It sounded
To me,
like,
it just, yeah.
It sounded. We both said that right away. It sounded like it was like
Just
you know, like I don't
Like
two
a-
in the
in-
front, two in the back,
unless-
like that. It was big.
like the running, that it was lower to the ground like that. But now that I think about it, it seems bigger than that. Because the ground is very soft up there and very absorbent. You know, like when you step on it, you kind of sink on it. And this moved the ground quite a bit.
And about how
Like-
far
Or
from your
Like
tent?
probably
oh, 10 feet.
10 feet away,
And-
but it still moved the ground where
We
it's so
were-
soft there and absorbent. So
I mean,
that's
we were both awake at this point for
Yeah.
probably 20 minutes, so it's not like we just popped up out of a sleep and heard something. We were like actually kind of like whispering and talking, and then this like raccoon scream or something happened, and then we heard it run that way and then run right by us. Sounded like it was running right at our tent at one time.
Yeah.
And we were both
Wow.
like, yeah.
yeah.
I said to Nick, should I turn the light on? He goes, no, don't turn the light on.
So, so it ran by mine first, I guess, we're assuming, because it was early, the light was coming in the morning, and I had been hearing about three separate occasions at night, rustling, heavy rustling in the bushes. And each time was like, oh, here they come. They're coming down off the, coming into camp right through me. And each time it kind of trailed off. There was like a heavy rustling in the bushes. I can't place it. It wasn't really close, but it was up, toward the mountain. I thought, well, they're coming down now. And then finally, I would kind of tense up and wait and say, no fear, they're going to come right to my tent. And nothing would happen. And then as dawn was coming in, I could see the light coming in. It was, I didn't hear all fours. I heard it was like bipedal going by my tent, maybe 20 feet coming down the path. But it was running. It was fast. And
Did
the
it
ground
vibrate
was
the ground?
vibrating, yeah.
Cool.
Because I'm sleeping on the ground. So that was like, whoa. And I was so tired, I didn't really think, it's like, oh my God, they're running into camp. Everyone else didn't experience it. I just kind of went back to sleep. It's like, okay, well, that was interesting.
That's awesome.
Did you hear any grunts or nothing?
No.
How-
Just the size of whatever it was, like we were both like, that's definitely like substantial. I mean, I'm 200 pounds, and I don't think you would hear me run by the tent
That's
like
what
that.
I
would've
felt
felt.
too. It was very substantial. I mean, I knew it was them. It wasn't a bear or a cougar.
Can't hear you.
But it,
What impressed me is that I could hear it coming down, I'm going to say down the mountain, down the slope. And I didn't really have time to react. It was so fast and so quick. It was like on us, by me, like, phew. But the ground was
Did you
vibrating.
say hello? When they went
I
by?
didn't even have a chance. It was so fast.
See?
I was impressed, but I was so groggy. I hadn't slept all night, so I was just starting to fall asleep finally.
So I think this is kind of interesting as far as the time element, the time stamp on everything, because yours was just around before 6 when you heard that go by. And at 6 o'clock, 6:05, I asked you what time it was. And then I got up and came down. I had my headlamp on. I came down. I was the only one up. But it all was happening within the same amount of
10 minutes.
within minutes of each
Yeah.
other. But before that, I had the lights. You're excited. What? What did I forget?
You're talking about the sequence. Your lights was first.
I haven't got there.
The scream was second. I mean, your headlamp. Your headlamp was first. The scream was second. Almost as if to alert something up here.
What scream?
You said you heard a scream just before the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Right.
wasn't. Yeah. that's what made us at first think, was that a cougar? It didn't sound big enough though.
Yeah.
So, but there was a scream before the running happened. It was all that was all within like what, a minute and a half?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was
If
a
I
scream
were to-
over here, and then that's when we heard this running, and it was like we were both like, "Whoa, there's something running!" And it was not next to our tent, and then all of a sudden it stopped, and then it came, and it was like, "That's running right at our tent,"
Wow.
and it went right past, and we both went like this by the window. We're like, that was big.
Yeah.
So you're thinking that my getting up triggered a scream that triggered something running by.
To alert those.
Alert whoever was over here.
That's just the way I see it.
Yeah.
So you
Cool.
didn't hear a scream?
I did not hear a scream, but by the time I got down here, I noticed that the raccoon had been in here. And I was like, oh my gosh. So now I was focused on the raccoon. He was still coming under. That everything was a mess. Well, not everything. A few things were a mess in there. He had gotten into some food. There were apples. There was, peanut shells everywhere. There were clothes on the floor. Somebody ate some apples, but it was like, so now I was focused on that, so I never heard the scream.
But it wasn't a super loud scream. Like I don't think.
Before 6.
I was awake. I was awake before 6, and I just couldn't lay there anymore. I was waiting it for just a little bit of daylight to come through because I don't get up in the dark. So I was just waiting for a little daylight when I felt confident enough to walk down here by myself. Yeah. So
I don't. To me, it didn't sound. To me, it didn't sound like a huge scream. It was definitely a scream, but it wasn't like I think the screams we heard earlier in the night that were like way over there. It was
So
more,
it couldn't have been Sandy making a squeal when she saw the mess, could it have been?
No.
I didn't squeal.
Nice.
Okay, so
was
what did you
amazing.
see?
Well, so then before all of that, though, in the tent, I got up about 4 o'clock this morning because I had a dream, got up, went outside, went pee, came back, got in bed, and then, and I don't know how long after that is when I started seeing the light off of you were laying on your back. Kevin was laying on his back, and he had his right hand over his belly and his left hand over his head. But in the dark, I didn't see that. I was laying on my side, and I saw a light off of his left shoulder through the tent. And so I popped up, and as I pop up, the light goes down. It stops. And then I lay down, and I see the light again. I pop back up, and then it shut off again. And then I mentioned it to him, and I realized he was laying on his back at that point. But it just did it many times where this light would come on, and then as soon as I pop up, it would be shut off. And there were several 2 or 3 times at least, where the light actually had like little rays, like this, little pointed rays projecting from it.
Wow.
But as soon as I'd pop up, I'd see it just before it went out.
Wow.
Yeah. So I finally went back to sleep, and then I woke up, and I was just kind of tossing and turning and needed to get up, and that was just before 6 when I got up and got dressed and came out.
So maybe they sensed that you were getting up and the alarm call went out, and that was what caused the running away.
Yeah.
Maybe. Just speculating. Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Congratulations again.
Yeah, congratulations.
You guys, awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
So you guys just got here yesterday, so that was your welcome.
Welcome to
You've been
camp.
greeted.
I'm so happy something happened. We had to wait till 6 a.m., but it finally
Yeah.
happened. So. I was expecting more around 3. But it was worth the wait.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so does anybody else have anything they want to share?
Yeah, I do. At 7:20 this morning, I was in bed, eyes open, awake, but still laying down, laying on my side. Sleeping bag was on my shoulder, not covering my ears, and I'm facing the tent wall, and just starting to think about the day. And I heard what appeared to be a big piece of firewood drop right on the other side of the tent wall. and that was it. I waited, I listened, nothing, no other secondary noise at all.
Wow.
And so I booted up and got outside, and there's nothing there. There's nothing outside the tent. There was very fragile mushrooms right around the edge where I had assumed it would have fallen, or where the noise had come from, but there was no sign of anything there. So I took that piece of firewood right there, it's about 25 pounds. I took it over to the exact site just to kind of recreate the sound. And I would like to do this again. I'd like to get in the tent, sleeping bag on me, same position, and have somebody drop it and see. But when I did it, it sounded pretty much like what I heard, except that ground, like people were saying before, is very soft, very spongy. And every time you do that, even from a little ways off of the ground, it bounces. The fire will bounce. It'll boom, boom. There's a secondary noise. There was no secondary noise at 7:20. It was just one big, heavy stomp on the ground, and that was it.
Wow. But all the little mushrooms are intact.
Yes.
Wow.
There's still some flat spots around there, but where it could have happened, but it sounded like it was just on the other side of the tent wall.
Wow.
I thought somebody was messing with me, is what I thought. but nobody here does that stuff, so.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Nope.
No, it sounds like we need to go back in the woods and take a look.
Yeah, I think we should go look for
Yeah.
the direction they came from.
And around Mitch's
Yep.
tent, and
We-
then head over to the cliff and firewood.
All right. Cool. We can do a recreation of the piece of wood falling.
Yep.
And then later tonight, after dark, we'll go ahead and do our recreations of the lights that we saw the night before last, and see how that goes. And we'll report back to you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
You know what?